Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and the Atlanta Braves won their third game last night. I stayed up and watched it, or at least I watched most of the end of it. Now, there's only one game left, and then the Atlanta Braves will be in the World Series. This is a big deal around here. Okay, I want to start this video with this quote. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous, Albert Einstein. I've told you many, many times on this channel that there are no coincidences. At least there are none for you and I who have done, and I was telling somebody on the phone actually this morning that my memory seems to, my kids make fun of me all the time and they say, "Oh, Dad, you can't remember anything unless it involves XRP." And I think they're kind of right. I think I've literally taken over 2 years out of my life and I've done nothing but study one thing, XRP and Ripple. And I've been locked on those two things for a very specific reason, because I don't believe there are any coincidences. I believe that this is exactly what we think it is. I don't believe I could have stayed locked on these two things for so long unless I knew in every ounce of my fiber that this was exactly what I thought it was. And I'm more convinced today than I was yesterday, and I was more convinced yesterday than I was the day before. And I will show you why right now. This is just one 24-hour period worth of here's why. Let me show you. Here we go. August the 6th, 2020. What's at stake? This is from Ripple Insights. What's at stake for the United States when it comes to digital asset regulation? This was written by Stuart Alderati, who happened to work for Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary of the United States a few years ago at CIT Bank Group. All right. Let's go down in this article. I want to show you something. About 2 to 3 or 4 months ago, we started to see a constant drumbeat from Ripple. And it was Chris Larson, it was Brad Garlinghouse, it was Stuart Alderati, and it was also David Schwartz, the main guys, right? And the drumbeat was this. The U.S. China tech Cold War. The Chinese government subsidizes vast amounts of energy needed to fuel Bitcoin and Ether miners. At least 65% of Bitcoin mining is concentrated in China. It's reported that Ether, anyway, he goes on in this article to talk about the bad China, good, what the U.S. is doing and all this. Down here it says, is the U.S. really willing to allow China to win this new technological and economic Cold War? So to me, it's a marketing campaign. Okay. This is, draw the parallels. When I was a kid, for those of you, any young people out there, when I was a kid, when, say, Ronald Reagan was president, we heard about the Cold War, and it was between the Soviet Union and the United States. And even before that, people didn't know if today was going to be the day when there was going to be a nuclear missile shot from one country to the other, and we would have nuclear war. And that people literally used to build bunkers so that they could be protected from nuclear war. That was a thing. Well, the same words are being used with this war. And I've told you before, and the irony here, to me, I don't think it's irony at all. I think it's exactly for a reason. The irony is I was talking on this channel just the other day about how when the nuclear bomb was created, they had the Manhattan Project. It was done in secret. Nobody knew that anybody had one, because if they didn't want them to know, if they ever knew, there's no telling what could have happened. So it was secret. It was a Manhattan Project. And those same parallels are being drawn between distributed ledger technology and that Cold War back then. It was called an arms race back then. Who was gonna have the nuclear missiles that would be so advanced ahead of? It was an arms race, nuclear arms race. They called it that all the time. It was called the Cold War. The same words. Words mean things, folks. Same words are being used in this. The U.S. China tech Cold War. And then he says technological and economic Cold War. And then we had this. This was Brad Garlinghouse just the other day talking to Maria Bartiromo.
CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse. Brad, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us. So you're saying you want a system in the United States where you actually see cryptocurrency and a structure for it. Explain the issue that you're referring to on Twitter, Brad.
Good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me. I think what the world should really understand, and certainly here in the United States, is that we are in a race with China. I think as we look back 3 or 4 years ago, there was a race around 5G networks. And I think if we look back in time today, we're going to find that we're at risk of making the same mistake again. And the mistake this time isn't about telecommunications networks and wireless networks. It's about global financial infrastructure. It's about global payments. Even this morning, I saw a new headline about how China is leaving others in the dust. I think in the race we're in, many countries are just in the process of getting a learner's permit. So for Ripple, we are looking at how do we make sure we can compete on a level playing field. And unfortunately, here in the U.S., we have some parts of the U.S. government that look at cryptocurrencies one way and others look at it another way. Sometimes it's looked at as a currency or a commodity or maybe a security. And depending on how it's looked at, it's regulated very differently. I think the Chinese Communist Party is being very strategic and is very focused on dominating this technology. I think there's little doubt that today, China is well ahead of where others are around the world. And I think we have to decide as a country, and really the rest of the globe, how we want to respond to that.
So it's the same theme going on. Now, I'm going to show you this article that was written yesterday, but this was an article that said Trump's security hawks call distributed ledgers critical in the U.S. China tech arms race. If I was not following Ripple, I would not have known that we were in a U.S. tech arms race, but it turns out the Trump administration did know. So those of us that follow Ripple, we've heard these terms because it wasn't just this. This is the one I showed you a minute ago, the U.S. tech China Cold War. It wasn't just this. Here's Chris Larson from back, I believe this was around August.
The move to control Hong Kong more closely gives them an advantage in controlling 2 of the global financial centers. U.S. only has 1, right? So the U.S. has got to change its view that goes from 17 and 18, which was all about these horrible ICOs, initial coin offerings, which were terrible, had to be shut down. They effectively shut them down. We won that war. Now we got to switch to, okay, how do we compete with China? How do we keep up? And, till now, frankly, U.S. regulators have actually helped China by officially giving clarity to the 2 protocols effectively controlled by Chinese miners, Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's a mistake. We've got to also give clarity at least, and maybe even support, if this really becomes a tech Cold War, like it's looking like it will be, to technologies that are more favorable to U.S. and its allies' stewardship of the next-gen global financial system.
All right. Now, he mentions Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm telling you, you write down, you heard it here first. It has never been Bitcoin and Ethereum. It has always been XRP and XLM, Stellar. I'm beating my desk. This is me beating my desk. It has always been XRP and Stellar. Look at the history. Go all the way back. Study Jed McCaleb. Study all of them. It has always been XRP and Stellar, XLM. I'm telling you right now, Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's almost as if they want you to be staring at Bitcoin and Ethereum as if that's what they want to focus on while everything's being done. That's what I believe. That's what I've believed for at least a year. That's what's going on here. And I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks for the ride. Now, yesterday I tweeted out the article. Okay, I'm going to go further into this. That's it. My son is drawing you a picture. Now, my son had a baseball game, so he could not draw you a picture, but I'm going to deliver on a picture because I think this is that important. I don't have my cup beside me. I've got a Chick-fil-A cardboard cup, so I'll beat that. This is the sound of a my son needs to draw you a picture moment. All right. And also, this was from Julian Flash. He summed up some of it. The Trump administration has included distributed ledger technology as the granddaddy tech behind cryptocurrency and blockchain in its strategy for preserving America's technological supremacy over China and Russia. Now, this is the article itself. Now, look closely at the title of that, because words mean things. Trump's security hawks, okay, it's security people, called distributed ledgers critical in U.S. China tech arms race. So it's the security, it's about security, okay? And it's about security because we've got to have something that at a minimum competes with what China has. Now, where have we heard the term security where it relates to digital currencies from this administration before? Here's where we've heard it. Even Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin warned that Bitcoin will not be widely used in 10 years and could be considered a U.S. national security risk. This is from Forbes. U.S. Department of Justice reveals growing Bitcoin and crypto national security threat could herald oncoming storm. Okay? And then right here, last year, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin echoing U.S. President Donald Trump's criticisms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies warned that Bitcoin will not be widely used in 10 years' time and that it could be considered a U.S. national security risk. And when you read this, distributed ledger is the exact opposite of a national security risk. It's a national security interest. In other words, they've always been on the side of distributed ledger technology, which is XRP, is XLM, and is not freaking Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it never has been. All right, moving along. But first I want to show you this. I'm not saying that Bitcoin and Ethereum will not do well price-wise. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they're not the ones. Never were the ones. It's this one right here, XRP, and it's Stellar. In fact, I noticed this morning that Stellar was on this screen when you have I don't remember if Stellar ever was in the top listed ones on CoinDesk, but I just noticed this morning that it was up here. But if you look here, it says, this is talking about the short list. It says the U.S. military is also examining DLT for combat operations, but efforts are still in early stages. So they put out this paper right here, National Strategy for Critical Emerging Technologies, October 2020. The most interesting thing is the last page, which shows you the what their interests are. They call it Annex, United States Government Critical and Emerging Technologies List. Distributed ledger technologies made the list. Ooh, I know we're not allowed to say this on YouTube, but quantum information science seems to be something they see as critical and emerging technologies list. And look here, space technologies also seem to be an important thing. I wonder if it's space technologies like the United States Space Force Department of the Air Force. And I wonder, does Space Force have a gift shop, or do you have to go there to get a t-shirt like this? I've never asked that question. But that's David Schwartz at one of Ripple's annual anniversaries or whatever. And he happens to have his own Space Force shirt. Interesting. Crypto will sum this up a little bit too. U.S. President Trump's technology strategy calls for investing, promoting, and adopting distributed ledger technology. DLT is one of the 20 focus areas on National Security Council's critical and emerging technology short list. All right. And then we go to this. And then this is from Julian Flash as well. And I'll tell you what, look, I met Anthony Pompliano when I was in Vegas, and he's a nice enough guy. But let me tell you what, after watching all this unfold for the next 2 years, this guy's not a dumb guy. Anthony Pompliano is not a dumb guy. But Anthony Pompliano knows that Bitcoin is not going to be involved in payments. He knows it. In fact, he pitches it to this day as being a store of value and all that stuff. He knows that Bitcoin is not what its white paper set it out to be. He knows it, but he continues this whole Bitcoin banter. Listen to what they say. This is Heath Tarbert that we showed you yesterday, who is from the CFTC.
The Federal Reserve and other central banks around the world are having discussions about central bank digital currencies.
But not Bitcoin.
And to some extent, there's kind of a metaphysical question as to, well, should it actually be a digital currency on a blockchain, or can we simply speed up our payment systems? But the bottom line is that I think everyone agrees that our payment mechanisms in the United States and in many countries around the world have not kept pace with technology. And so I think we definitely want to put a lot of thought and emphasis into the debate, the discussion. And regardless if we go to an actual central bank digital currency or we just go to a more sophisticated payment system, I agree that something has to be done.
All right. So they're all still kidding themselves on the Bitcoin thing, the Bitcoin people. XRP Bart sent me this on the same day. The Fed Chairman Powell to speak about digital currencies next week at the IMF. Imagine that. Imagine the coincidence of that. Oh, that's right. There are no coincidences. Okay. CS May 144K sent me this. This was Judy Shelton. Fed Chair Powell to speak next week at IMF on digital currencies. What do you know? That's a coincidence too, right? Federal Reserve, this is from XRP Crypto. Well, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell will talk about digital currencies and the future of cross-border payments at the IMF's annual meeting. Panelists will discuss benefits and risks of cross-border digital currencies as well as their policy implications. And then we have this, Michelle Vandenberg. Remember what I told you about Stellar, right? This is Jeremy Allaire, who runs Circle, which is backed by Goldman Sachs. Very excited to announce center support for USDC on Stellar as an official chain for USDC and Circle Stellar. Look at that, Circle Stellar. Are they going to call it Circle Stellar? Partnership to bring Stellar USDC support into Circle's broad suite of API services. I will say it again, folks. It was never Bitcoin and Ethereum. Remember, Vitalik Buterin slept on Stefan Thomas of Ripple, the CTO of Ripple at the time. He slept on his couch. Stefan and Vitalik Buterin then left and started Ethereum, and he did it wrong. He did it wrong. And they knew he was going to do it wrong, I believe. Bitcoin and Ethereum were never it. It is XRP and XLM, and it always has been. I'm the digital. Oh, by the way, the Link to is having they're going to have another one of their conferences coming up in, I believe it's in December, but you can still go down in the description of all of my videos and you can download the app, input your information. You can also, go to the link to linqto.com and you can, there's a link to that in my description as well. And you can fill out your information. And once you're signed up, you'll get notifications anytime they're having these billionaire conferences or having all these people. So just wanted to make you aware of that. But anyway, I'll do it again. I can't remember if I said the full spiel. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that it was always XRP and XLM. Thank you for listening.
Every day, billions of people around the world are mocked, ridiculed, laughed at, and embarrassed by their friends, family, and even strangers. These people go through their days knowing there are secrets being kept from them. They hear the faint whispers behind closed doors. The information and knowledge is held very close and only shared with others who were fortunate enough to find out. Feeling lost, rejected, and ostracized, these people give up, never finding out what digital assets the digital asset investor holds. But there is hope. Join the free Digital Asset Investor email newsletter and find out what digital assets he owns each month, including investments he's considering. Click the link in the description of this video or go to digitalassetinvestornewsletter.com. Put an end to your days of gloom and depression. Join the greatest free digital asset email newsletter ever created.